You've tuned in to chipsgrooveradio with your hosts, Mike and Jon. Did you, have you played this game? Have you?
No, so I was watching some gameplay footage of it. It seems like a really interesting kind of twist on the side-scroller shooter game, where you have that little shield thing that kind of moves forward and back and kind of can hang out.
R-Type is a fun series.
Yeah,
they really give you a lot of options with the force thing that they've got. I think they call it the force ball or whatever, but it's basically your gateway to different weapons and shit, and it also acts as a shield, for small bullets and stuff. So that's pretty fun. But this was a big title.
Seems like add some strategy. Yeah, did you play it a lot?
Oh yeah, I would say this. It was one of the first non-Nintendo Super Nintendo games we owned. So I mean, the others would be early on. It would be Super Castlevania 4 and Contra 3.
Right.
And then R-Type. But yeah, this is fun to grow up with because it took a lot of practice to finally beat this game. But
yeah, it seems like I played a lot of 1941 on the, was that SNES or the NES?
I think that was NES, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was that and the attack helicopter one that I can't remember what the name of is. But you're like a helicopter and it's
Raid on Bungling Bay?
No, it wasn't side scroll, it was top scroll.
Yeah, you're like a top down and you're flying around the ocean or whatever and you're taking out tanks and stuff.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, those are really the only until that and Cybernator, which is basically a side scrolling shooter. Yeah. Those are the kind of shooters that I played. I never really played like Gaiden and any of that kind of side scroller shooters, but yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I grew up with this and Life Force, which is basically the precursor to Gradius.
Gradius, that's what I was saying, not Gladius.
Yeah. And they weren't my favorite type of game, but I enjoyed them a lot to the extent that I would try to beat them at least once. It was I like to credit my hand-eye coordination to the Contra series because of how insane the hard modes are in those games and
the bullet hell that you get.
Yeah. So I've managed to do some pretty incredible things with games at times, and I think with this one it came around the time where I was developing that hand-eye coordination, and there are moments in this game where it's very similar. You're slowing down because the system's actually lagging a little bit and slowing down. It can't handle everything that's on screen, so you're like seeing and making movements in slow-mo. It's a fun time, but it
seems like a game that has that twitchy Contra style gameplay, but you have a bit of that tactics that you have to kind of see things as they're coming up and move your shield around and think about stuff.
Part of the fun of the game is knowing which direction your shield should be at all times, because forward or backwards it's going to be worse than the other. One's going to be worse than the other, so you got to pick and choose how you use it. But it's a fun game, and I do go back to it every once in a while still. But this is just overall a really fun and beautiful game. I think for the sprite work in this is pretty good, and for a space shooter at the time, I think it's just it feels more detailed and like there was more love put into it. I'm not gonna downplay anyone else's work, but I think this one has just a little bit more style to it. So, yeah,
definitely, it does feel like a unique game. Like I saw when I started watching some of the gameplay trailers or gameplay footage, It was like, oh, this is just, another side scroller shooter. But kind of sitting there and watching a bit more, you get the sense that there was a lot of care put into how a lot of the big bosses looked, and how the levels looked, and there were very interesting levels and level design, sprite work, and all that. So
yeah,
and the music is no exception.
I was just gonna say, evidenced by the music, I feel like this game stands above a lot of the others, and especially at the time, if we keep it in the early '90s, I would say it's probably the best out there, aside from maybe the arcade counterparts that came from the series. But the only head to head, I would say Gradius would be second place, but yeah, I think R-Type wins that one. But I think, with the soundtrack that accompanies this game, kind of the raise amber of it is that the rest of the game could be crap and you'd still be happy with the purchase because the soundtrack is so good. So.
Great. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's some amazing bass in the soundtrack, so no wonder you picked it to review. It just has like very jazzy sound, complete with instrument solos, which is really an interesting thing on a SNES soundtrack. And like solo story, that first song in particular, could easily see being played live by a big band. It's just a jazz song.
It takes you for a ride. That one is there are so many changes in that song alone, and you get a couple solos from different instruments, and it's like, wow, this is pretty intense.
Yeah.
But before we get too far, the soundtrack is composed by 3 people: Yasuhiro Kawakami, Takushi Hayamuta, Hiroshi Kimura. And I will right off the bat say I'm not 100% sure that these people are really doing anything anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I looked into them as best I could from the time I had, and Kawakami, he has worked on titles like Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, Shinobi, and Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. Takushi Hiyamuta has very limited credits past the early 2000s, but has worked on titles like King of Fighters and the Metal Slug series. And Hiroshi Kimura has not done much outside the early 90s. It doesn't look like, from what I was able to research. I tried finding things linked, but the website that was listed to his name did not work, and I couldn't really find any current games or projects. But that is not to take away from their efforts here. They definitely did a good job here.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. These I don't know if they're flash in the pan or what, but they come out with a soundtrack like Super R-Type. It's very unique, very well done, well put together, well structured, and then they don't really go on to do too much more, and it's kind of a shame, really.
Yeah. It's. I hope they're doing more, and I haven't seen it, or I haven't been able to find the source material, because from what you hear here, there's a lot of talent and a lot of really good song structure. Why I say that is because when you put it up, we covered Ray Zamber. I'll bring it up again. It's got a very disco pop theme to it, right?
Yeah.
This soundtrack is very jazzy, there are maybe a couple hints at rock elements, but not really. Like, it focuses much more on almost big band mentality. And if you put it side by side with other games from the time, like Darius Twin, again, Gradius, those I would say are more rock oriented. And that almost feels like maybe the go-to sound of the shoot 'em up. And this one just took it a different direction.
Yeah, you get kind of that Mega Man soundtrack sound, and there's a couple songs in here that have that more video game music style, I guess I would put it. Like Return of the Creature is a bit more video game music, and then the only other song that's kind of like that is Blast Rock. But the style overall kind of gives me like this chip tunes Cowboy Bebop vibe. You can see like this being in a SNES Cowboy Bebop game.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get like tracks like Submerging Titan, which just dials the funky bass up to 11.
Oh yeah. To bring it back to Solo Sortie, I think this is the first level theme, and it just opens with that driving tune that has a real urgency, and the song as a whole, I would say, has a surprising depth to it. Again, there are horns, guitar, a punchy drum that pretty much accompanies the whole soundtrack. And then the song changes phases and the lead evolves into like this flute, I would say, of sorts. And it gets its own solo section. The bass, even in this song, is going nuts. And the sound chip for this album is really growly. And I love the tone of the bass on this album. I think it's very distinctive from a lot of other Super Nintendo games. When I think bass for Super Nintendo or 16-bit, this is one of the titles that comes to my mind. And I don't know what it is they did to it, but it definitely has a distinctive quality that I don't really hear in other titles.
It's very punchy, like the slap bass. You can really hear that punchiness, and it's strong for a bass on an SNES. Like it's very. A lot of times you have a bass guitar and it kind of fades into the background. But in this, you can always hear the bass guitar. It has that growly kind of ever present kind of note where it slaps over a note as it goes. And when they have that solo in Solo Sortie, it is just a dirty bass guitar. Like it's really like nothing you've heard before in SNES. So
yeah, and I would say, to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, it feels as present as the other instruments. And instead of, like you were saying, fading into the background, you feel, because of that punchiness, it's standing with everything else. Whereas, traditional music, bass would fall on the back. But yeah, I think the opening track to this, the first level, this is what we get. And it's one of the most diverse songs, if not the most diverse song on the album. It's awesome. The unfortunate part is, I want to say almost half of it gets cut for the actual game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it loops much sooner than it does on this album, which is unfortunate. But it was a nice surprise when you turn the album on. It was like, hey,
where'd this come from?
Keep going. I believe there's a keyboard solo section which is omitted from the gameplay, but most likely,
that keyboard section is dope.
It is pretty dope.
Yeah,
but I would imagine it was. I don't know if it was space-saving measures. It's not a particularly long game, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Along the same lines, I would say Counterattack 91 is the Super Nintendo's rendition of a series theme.
Yeah,
it's a lively theme, very powerful, and the horn section here is very full and exciting. I would say this song goes along with Solo Sortie. There are two tracks. They're faster maybe than the rest of the album. I would say the only other track that comes close would be the boss theme, but even that is not super quick tempo.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say before we get too far on the album is that it feels like these songs, there are 6 levels, and it feels like there are 2s of each type of music. Like the first two songs are probably quicker paced, a little bit more exciting than the others. And then you get to songs like Wet as a Fish and the final level theme, the national anthem of Baido Empire. Those are slower, more subdued and haunting, a little scarier. And then you've got Submerging Titan and the sixth level theme, which is escaping me at the moment.
Is that Our Dance?
That might be it. Yeah, Our Dance. Yeah. And those feel much more industrial. Yeah. Much more, I want to say, metallic sounding. It sounds like you are where you are in the game, and we can cover those when we get there. But and then my favorite track, I think, is Dream of Labyrinth, which is a highly jazzy, chill tune.
Yeah, that's like a lounge jazz.
Yeah.
Like you're chilling there. Yeah.
Does not match the level because the level is terrifying. It's one of the hardest levels. And but yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say that I think there are twos almost that go along with this album where they pick a style and kind of go with it for a couple songs and then they change it up a little bit. I don't know if you felt that at all or not.
Now that you mention it, it does kind of ring true, and it's interesting that we've had soundtracks that are hour and a half long, and they all feel like at the end of the day, you start to feel like the same song that you listen to over and over again. But this one does feel like every track is a fresh take on this game. And yeah, you go from Solo Sortie, Submerging Titan is just groovy, boogie, dirty bass. And then, National Anthem, which sounds like a national anthem.
Yeah.
Kind of an interesting choice for a game that doesn't really seem to have a story or anything.
Yeah. I mean, for the audience, now that you mention it, the gist behind R-Type is pretty much the same thing as every other space shooter of the time. There's an alien invasion of sorts, and you are the one ship that can save everyone. Of course. You just take on this battalion with little difficulty. In this case, you're fighting against the evil Baido Empire, and that's as much story as you're really going to get. But
you don't need any more story.
Yeah, you don't need much. It's a quick game. You're in as soon as you know it. So hit the start button.
Yeah, but the Submerging Titan just kind of stuck out to me because it just has the most low down, dirty bass line that I think is physically possible on the SNES sound chip.
Probably the lowest, the lowest it can go.
It's just like, you're boogieing all the way down with this Titan. Besides that, like, absolutely sick, nasty bass line, the trumpets really steal the show on the high end. The trumpets really bring us on a journey, wandering up and down the scale at times, and then playing foil to the bass line at others. And then you get the jazzy piano keyboard solo towards the end. Kind of mellows us out before the bass kind of guides us away out of the track. It's just like the bass line is even more ever present than Solo Sortie. Yeah, and it's just punchy and dirty, and the trumpets. I play trumpet, and I'm a sucker for trumpets, even synth trumpets, and those offbeat single note that are kind of foiling the bass line are great, and there's the way they kind of chaotically move up and down the scale, gives a real feeling of pace for this track.
Yeah, for me, along with the bass, obviously, it goes without saying that's my favorite part. But the percussion here, that really sharp, I don't even know what instrument that is, but it's that block hitting or something that kind of guides the song in a very metallic sounding percussion that it's really accenting the beat of this song, and it adds this element of weight to the song, which I think is really fun. And the level itself is you're taking down this enemy frigate. Basically, it's this flying ship. It's fucking huge, and you're not only avoiding gunfire and enemy ships, but you're avoiding the frigate's ignition blasts. So you have to like time your ship movements with everything and make sure you don't get blown out of the sky by one of those. It's a stressful mission, but it's really fun. And this song, wow, it just really, really keeps you entertained along with what's happening on screen. So it's just a fun time. And then again, like I was saying before, I think Submerging Titan goes along with our dance in terms of being that more industrial and mechanical in nature. I think there's weight to both songs, and I think they're related in that sense because in our dance, that's the 6th level, I believe. Yeah, and you're basically in this junkyard factory or the evil Bido Empire production plant. Like these ships are being created or destroyed, one of the two, as you're moving through this facility, and you're seeing kind of the nuts and bolts of the process. Your enemy's base and everything's under construction, and it's got a very dark nature to it and a very dirty nature to it. So I think that these two songs, again, I think go together in being just a little bit more industrial and very fitting for the levels that they accompany.
Yeah, it's interesting. Our dance kind of strikes me as this kind of cool, old school rap backtrack. You know,
it is
a little bit more industrial, but yeah, you could like definitely put a rap album over the rap track over this.
We should do that. We should write an our dance rap.
I'm not cool enough to.
I'm not cool enough to pull that off. I don't think anyone could do that.
No.
Oh boy. I did want to talk about Dream of Labyrinth. There is just something about this song. Yeah. I made so many years ago a top 20 video game songs of all time list for me personally, and this was on it. There is something about this song that it's so different. And maybe it's because of that it sticks out to me. But the jazzy loungeness of it it's so intricate. And it's relaxing. And it just keeps you engaged in the level. You're focused on the level, but you're you're satisfied sonically because the song's good,
Yeah.
but the level is so intense that it's helping you focus a little bit. And I think it's a really cool thing to have when that happens, when the song's helping you focus. A lot of times we talk about how boss music might keep you a little bit more stressed out or something. Yeah. But on top of that, this song is just so different from anything else I feel that you're going to hear in a space shooter.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So
I love the chill jazz vibes that it has, and it's not like a slow lounge song. You know, it has that speed and pace, and some solos in there. The trumpet is kind of fiddling away, and you have that strong bass line, but it's a bit for the scene you describe. It seems like a bit of a happy song. You're just kind of chilling, and it's kind of happy, and it just kind of gets you in the mood to beat the crap out of these Bido Empire thugs.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say about it other than it's just one of those songs that stands out from all the rest. And what strikes me again about it is that it feels like the bass, while ever present, like every other song, it does feel like it's a little bit in the background and the trumpets are taking over, but nothing is too loud. It's almost like the decibel level is taken down a notch. It's just a really enjoyable song. And this one, to accompany a level that's as hectic as this one, is interesting. And then when you get to the boss, it is probably one of the most fear-inducing bosses ever, because in this game, if you die, you go back to the beginning of the level.
Oh, God.
So
if you die in real life.
You die in real life. No, but this boss, the whole level is you navigating this labyrinth, to be on the nose, of moving walls, and you have to kind of gauge where they're going to move and where they're going to move to, or you're going to get crushed.
Yeah.
So it comes with a lot of trial and error. And then when you get to the boss, it's like he's at the right end of the screen. He's like this big machine that's taking up the right side of the
classic shooter boss.
Yeah, exactly. But he's like on rails or something. So the level starts moving and you're like chasing him down this tunnel, but then all these obstacles start appearing, coming at you at speed. And you have to avoid those while also dealing damage to the boss. It is very easy to fuck up. So it's like,
I gotta love those early SNES games that are just insanely punishing if you die.
So punishing. But to bring us back to, I want to comment on the quieter songs on this album. And As Wet as a Fish is one of the two tracks that I lumped together. It takes the listener to, a much calmer place. This level has us flying through dark caverns, under waterfalls, and through them. All the oceanic enemies come out in this level, and the night crawlers. What makes this song great is that subdued nature of it. It brings a completely chaotic level down, kind of like level 5. But the melancholic tones of the strings really keep that subdued emotion, while the jazzy drums in the back have such a lively beat. And the bass, I think, has a muted tone in this, which is kind of interesting. It's a little bit different than every other song. But it does, the bass travels up and down that fretboard a lot in this song. Yeah. So
The bass definitely lays down that the tone of this track, and you have that warbling kind of up and down of the I guess it'd be keyboard, and the drums are just wailing away in the background. It kind of gives me like 80s Miami, at night, driving with a drop top down, kind of vibe. And
definitely.
I love the part where it kind of gets a little sinister and a little like you're diving into the caverns a bit deeper than you should, and then kind of comes back out with a keyboard solo. It's just a neat choice to kind of give you that little sense of dread or that sense of unknown before going back into the chill beats.
Yeah. Another element I really like is the drums in this. They do a little bit of a backbeat section to get the song going. With the snare drum, it's got that it's kind of, it plays like a seesaw thing with the kick drum, and it's really fun. A little bit different again, and I think this song is just one of those more melancholic tunes. And for me, it goes with the national anthem of Baido Empire. Again, still on the slower end of the spectrum. This one is much more foreboding and dangerous than As Wet as a Fish. Even though it is the theme song of the Baido Empire, it starts out kind of sad, but then that darkness sets in with the percussion and determined and sinister melody. So it's a little bit more deliberate and intense, even if the instruments aren't terribly loud. That driving aggression of the melody sends that message pretty firmly. So you are in enemy territory.
100%. Yeah, it is an interesting choice of having that kind of sad beginning to lead into a more authoritarian, evil, in control middle part there. And the bass guitar is like, you were our friends for so long, and now you're just this sinister bass like driving. It's like, oh my, it's oppressive almost.
Yeah. This song, the bass takes a little bit of a turn, and it's got that growl to it, but it might even be lower than Submerging Titan.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Overall, this album is just a pleasant thing to listen to. It is not terribly long, and obviously it's a Super Nintendo title, but I don't know. Do you have any final thoughts on this album? I think it's...
Yeah, it's a really interesting, like I went into it not knowing the game, obviously, and then knowing that it was a kind of shooter game. It's doing this podcast for a long, the couple of months that we've been doing it, I've come to realize that there's often a disconnect between how the style of music versus the style of game that sometimes you can get a very complex soundtrack for a game that is ostensibly fairly simple. And I think this is one of those cases where there's just such a strong structure to all the songs. They all have their own voice. There's nothing that really sounds like utterly similar to the other song. They all stand out to a certain extent. There's no real bad tracks on the song either. Everything is pretty much a jam. Yeah, overall, it's a really good soundtrack for an early 90s SNES game. It's incredible that they were able to get the fidelity that they could out of the soundtrack.
It's pretty standout just simply because of how early in the SNES life cycle this was. So this would have been one of those games where it's like, okay, what can the Super Nintendo do?
Right.
And they come out with a game like this, a year into it, and that's pretty awesome. And it was exciting when I first played it, and it's exciting now. I come back to this soundtrack frequently, and these artists, whether or not they are still working, I hope they are. They have done a magnificent job here. Again, Yasuhiro Kawakami, Takushi Hiyamuta, and Hiroshi Kimura. I hope they're still making money and making soundtracks, because this was a good one for them, and it's one of those that's always going to live with me, and it's got a place in my heart. It adds to this experience. It's what elevates, among a couple other things, this title over other shooters, and it really is what makes R-Type what they call the king of shooters in general. And this is that kind of love that you see when someone really takes their job seriously. So I think overall this game is a gem. And despite any deletions they had to make from arcades or whatever, it's still a standout title on the Super Nintendo, and the soundtrack is impressive. So
For sure.
Like you said, no song feels like it's repeated. Everything has its own voice, and that's really fun, especially when it would be very easy, I would say, even with a game that's only got 7 levels to start to get samey.
Yeah.
And they don't do that, which is good. So
Yeah, 100%.
give this a rating, sir. How would you rate this one?
I think it is a 10 out of 10. I really enjoyed it for the time period it came out, and for the genre it's in. It's a standout soundtrack, and really surprised me. And I'm a sucker for big band and jazz and all that fun stuff. So yeah, definitely 10 out of 10. 10 shield gladius tosses out of 10.
Sounds good. I will concur. 10 out of 10 R9 ships. I will give this. It is just a standout soundtrack. And of course, this has not been released that I can find. I know back a while ago they released The Sounds of Irem, which is the company that developed this. I believe it was on CD several years ago. But they did do that at some point. But you can find this online anywhere. Every track is on YouTube. You can listen to it. It's an extremely fun listen, and we suggest everyone give it a shot.
Yeah, really fun.
All right, John, I think that's good enough for today. So if
Yes,
you would
sir.
like to say goodbye to the lovely listeners, please do so.
I'll see you all in the Bido Empire.
No! Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and subscribe on your podcast app of choice. Also, check out Magus Media's other podcast, This Is Not Happening, Another X-Files podcast for complete episode breakdowns, insightful banter, and inane babble. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Well, hello there, Internet people. My name is Josh, and I am one of the hosts of the Nastagram RPG podcast. We're an actual play podcast, and we're good. And why are we good? Well, let's let the other host tell you. Dan.
Hey everyone, if you like authentic, real-world sound effects, our lasers go pew-pew.
I love it. Matt.
Skip me. Coming back to Matt.
Ryan.
Okay, so after 2 decades of trying, we finally mastered the 3.5 grapple.
We're not doing that.
We certainly did
Never
not.
mind.
Try
Scratch
again.
that. Scratch
Scratch
that.
that.
Look it up.
John.
If you're looking for a RPG podcast that plays a whole hell of a lot of games, you like to spice the life.
Spice it up.
Spice it up.
Matt, you ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. If you enjoy bad accents and overacting, you'll enjoy our podcast.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
And Jake, bring us home.
I like to just say we didn't just throw a phone on the table and hit record. Like, Josh does a damn good job with the editing. And
Facts.
if you care about that, you will not be disappointed.
That's right. We spent a bunch of money that we don't make on the
Yeah,
podcast.
100%.
So check us out, Nastagram RPG Podcast. You can find us on all the goddamn podcast apps, and we'll see you there.
That's nasty.